plans change, and things change. Like, the world is unpredictable. Again, there's a bigger promise for myself out there where I want to be proud of myself. And now, like, the question is, will the college degree make me proud? And I'm going to be honest in this podcast, like, this is a revelation, but
Nathaneal Galliguez, a former Nightshifter and university student from the Philippines, has transformed into a full-time digital writer. His journey began in January 2024 when he started writing online by answering questions on Quora. By mid-February, Nathaneal discovered that X offered greater traction, prompting a transition to the platform. His dedication paid off when, after just 44 days, he secured his first ghostwriting deal worth $12.5 thousand. So maybe it would help to tell the audience a little bit about yourself, like where are you coming from and where are you at right now?
Right. So I am a ghostwriter on X at the moment. I'm from the Philippines. And before I was a ghostwriter, I was a university student. I was going to take up law. There was a lot of family problems, so I had to leave home early, and I needed to work early too, like a 9 to 5. So I did odd jobs until eventually I got the best job that I could find, which is a night shift. So I would work from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. Customer service. And then I would have like 4 hours of sleep because I would need to go to university. So yeah, I was like, for a year, I just did that. And all my life, I've always like, I had this, I think that I was just like built for entrepreneurship, like what we were talking about earlier, because I always had this urge to like jump on things and take risks, like take crazy risks. I just, all or nothing crazy mentality where, I just risk it all. And luckily, like I found Twitter, and when I saw the potential of it, I was like, yeah, I'm going to like take a break from university. I haven't like officially dropped out. I still don't know if I'm going to continue it, but I have 2 years to like take a break and see how it goes. So I like for sure I'm going to take those 2 years and try to build the business as much as possible. Yeah, I started building. I just focused on 9 to 5, and then after like 44 days, I was able to land like a big client, and I just saw like, man, this, it's real. Internet money. I thought it was just fake. I thought you needed to like become an influencer who is a slave to the algorithm, but apparently you don't. You could just be like very skilled and have a good network, have a good work ethic, and everything will pay off. And yeah, now I'm just like building the business, trying to help people, and that's the goal.
And you go to the University of the Philippines currently, which, as I understand, is one of the top schools in the country. Is that right?
Yeah, it is arguably the top school, the top university, because I mean, like they have this quote where there's only 2 universities in the Philippines, University of the Philippines and others. Like they're cocky like that. They take pride on that, and my mother came from there, and so I also like had this esteem. I also put it in a pedestal, right? Like when I entered university in the Philippines, I was like, man, I'm one of the guys, like I'm a big shot now. But when I stayed there, because not to brag, but I'm quite a smart kid. I can understand complex ideas.
That's exactly what braggers say.
Yeah, kidding. Not to brag, but I am bragging that I can. I mean, dude, like in Twitter, if you're not smart, you're not really going to last, because it's really hard to like stand out, But yeah, I got into university, and I thought that it would be like a fruitful experience where I will meet like intellectuals, will have like good conversations like this that we're having right now, like the ones that I'm having in the podcasts, where, like when we met initially, those types of conversations where we even go in depth with science and spirituality and all that. But they were just obsessed with getting good grades and getting a high paying job. And I was just like so frustrated. And I was like, man, I want to do this. I was like, I just wanted to go out. So yeah.
That reminds me a little bit of the Steve Jobs quote where he said, and I'm going to somewhat butcher it. I forget exactly the words he used, but something to the effect of everything you see around you was basically created by people. So you can change it. Like you don't have to like just follow everything just because. And so when you're talking about putting yourself out there with, intent, integrity, humility, and discipline, and being surprised that, you can grow and succeed in that's basically what it is. It's all about people at the end of the day, I believe. And the more you learn about yourself and how you can contribute, provide value. So you mentioned being smart, going to the top school. By definition, not everyone's going to go to the top school, but everyone has a unique, I think, contributing, like a unique kind of gift to contribute. And I think the smartest people I've met realize that. And so I felt like intimidated talking to them, but I think they kind of welcomed me because I entered our conversation or our collaboration with humility and curiosity. I think if you can try to be authentic, humble, and curious, the world is a big, big place. And that's what I've found anyway. How about you?
Yeah. I like what you said there, like curiosity, because I mean, again, like I was always the guy who like questions stuff in my room, like it's like my rebel part. Like when everyone said yes to the teacher, or when everyone was like agreeing to everything, I was like the one who was like asking why, it's a part of it is like laziness, because like why would I do that? I want to do that because it's not necessary. But yeah, I think being able to stay curious, humble yourself, understand that you don't know anything, and be open. I think it's like openness to experience. That's my biggest part, I think, is now we're getting to personality types, but yeah, like I am 99 percentile openness to experience. And a lot of that was through like questioning stuff. Like I wasn't, I'm from the Philippines. It's a very religious country, and there's there are structures in place. It's very traditional. It's very like, this is the way you go. So you're a Catholic, you're gonna become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or a nurse. Like, there's fixed metrics of success, fixed metrics of like, there's expectations of you. But being open to like other ideas, I think has contributed to me a lot. And like, I always was like that. And I think it's only a matter of developing the other part, which is conscientiousness, the discipline part. You're open to ideas, but you're also like driven to exploring those ideas to its fullest, and like having a vision and moving towards that vision every day. So yeah, just those are my thoughts on what you mentioned.
You have a family legacy of like academic accomplishment, and here you are at a fork in the road, considering like how useful is this diploma, or how useful is the opportunity cost of, spending this much time, 1 or 2 more years in school. If I were to spend that 1 or 2 more years in entrepreneurship 100%, would I be further ahead? Would being in school help me? Would it be kind of a hedge against, another black swan event or something like that? So where's your head at now?
Yeah. That's funny because I was talking to ChatGPT. I was talking to ChatGPT with this because he's kind of like my therapist. So we have like conversations about this, and he was like, because I'm also actually even considering going to Spain. So there's this thing that I discovered. When you're a colony of Spain before, if you stay in Spain for 2 years, you can be a Spanish citizen and get like a Spanish passport, which is, like better than a Philippine passport. Like I can go much more places without a visa. Like I can just enter because it's a European passport. So like there's actually three options for me right now. It's like go back to school and continue entrepreneurship, just go all in on entrepreneurship, or like travel Spain. Like the two are actually quite linked. Like if I go all in entrepreneurship, it's very possible that I might go to Spain and just even like I was even thinking if I really wanted a degree, if I really respected a degree that much, I can just like go there and get a degree, like learn Spanish and get a degree there. But right now, because again, like I only need 1.5, like 3 semesters to graduate. But I was like, my degree was public administration, which is like connected to government. And I don't know if I'm even going to use that degree in the future because I'm really all in with the entrepreneurship side. So I'm leaning really more towards like going all in entrepreneurship and even traveling to Spain. But again, I have 2 more years to take a break from university where I can explore more of what's going to happen. And I mean, if I can automate the business, because I'm not going to stay in the ghostwriting for like I'm going to stay there for a year, and then I'm eventually going to try to pivot to coaching, because my advocacy really is to help young men find purpose. And if I can transition there and try to automate it, because like it's easier to be a coach than be a ghostwriter. Like it's harder to like do for you services than do with you, right? Because do with you is more on them and I'm just a guide. So if we can do that, we can try to like systemize the business, then I mean 3 semesters is not going to be hard for me. So yeah, those are things to consider.
Yeah, it's I don't know that there are wrong paths in life, because short term, I mean, obviously there certainly seem to be, but long term, because sometimes that mistake or whatever turns out to exceed your expectations in terms of the pursuit and the growth that comes from it, can come from it. So it is always challenging to make those decisions. I guess I would ask you, I mean, on the one hand, it seems like, well, the opportunity, I mean, the sunk cost kind of fallacy, perhaps. You've already invested so much. Why not invest just a little bit more, just a year and a half to do this? And then it's like, well, again, the opportunity cost of what would that year and a half look like if I were to invest it somewhere else? One thing that I guess surprised me when I pivoted to business school in the pandemic, coming from tourism in Japan, was I was painfully aware that I had a lot of blind spots. And I thought the name of the game was try to illuminate them all and try to get reasonably good at everything. Just be like a generalist. It's like, okay, I know how to code. I know how to speak like 5 languages. I know how to, do simple financial analysis or data analysis or whatever. Maybe that is. I mean, I'm not saying don't do that if that's working for you. But what I found and what business schools seemed to recommend at the time that I started it was it's a better ROI to basically invest in your strengths. And that's where you get competitive. Because like if I try to start something that I don't have like a background in, and someone else, for me, it's like one of the many things I'm doing, and someone else is just 100% in it and they already are gifted at it, chances are you're facing an uphill battle. And it's not saying don't do it, of course, but my strategy has been to pivot to what I enjoy and am good at and pour more resources into that and see how I can provide value to others through that, so that I can maybe unlock the law of reciprocity or network for my weaknesses, rather than try to become self-sufficient, a self-sufficient island, kind of create a tribe. So to your point, like maybe someone that didn't go to the University of the Philippines or whatever can still be your friend. They come up and they contribute in their way and you contribute in your way. And
yeah, actually I have like I was contacting a friend right now. He has a business 3D printing, and like because he asked me how I was, he's a good friend, and I told him like I've actually been going quite well, like I have a business, I've grown to this much, I closed this client, it's a big deal, and yeah, he was like, can you help me with my business? And I was like, okay, let's we're going to meet like next week, and we're going to see how I can help him. So yeah, definitely that network does it does give you some value. But one thing that I was reflecting on while you were speaking was, you mentioned you pivoted from tourism to business, right?
That's right.
Now I'm thinking, what if I do that too? Like, what if I enter journalism or something? Like,
I think that you can provide unique value. I think it's tough to make a blanket statement, a set and forget kind of rule. But generally speaking, in my experience, and there could be an element of self-fulfilling prophecy here, I think that as an outsider, you can provide unique value. There's always a cost for everything. So the cost is you're not going to belong. But the benefit is you're going to have a unique perspective. And so in a sense, you're almost playing in like a different dimension. And if you can understand, have good self-awareness, understand your strengths and weaknesses, and appropriately or reasonably appropriately kind of network or kind of account for that, then you can provide value that people just don't expect. And if you can track that and communicate that, you can create yourself a pretty robust kind of funnel and iterate from there. Because I think the whole name of the game is growth. So that's, for me, I think the pandemic was a double-edged sword. Like, it ended the industry for a while, but it kind of forced me to iterate too. In a way, I don't know that we have like limits really. I was listening to this interview with Khabib Nurmagomedov, a UFC fighter out of Dagestan. He's now retired and he's coaching his, Islam Makhachev. Protege. Thank you. Because it's not like blood brother, but kind of honorary brother, I think. Also trained with his father. But anyway, he's talking about Makhachev and facing Dustin Poirier and just the levels that you go to as any. This could be entrepreneurship. This could be any industry. You don't, if you're not into combat sports, replace it with absolutely anything, because you don't. He said something that I've felt, and like it's interesting when you hear your thoughts in someone else's words, and that's that you don't know how deep you can go, and you're breaking through layers, and you think you reach your limit, and then it's very difficult to force yourself through. It's a very easy way of kind of feeling this, I find, is exercise. If you exercise without music versus exercising with music. So that's one area where like something helps you pass through a barrier. But this is obviously much more intense, and you're forced. Survival's on the line or whatever, and you're forced, and you realize at the time you look back, you're like, I had no idea that I had that in me. I had no idea that was possible. Then you start wondering what is possible. And I think it's almost anything. What is it that makes you want the university diploma? What does it do? Does it communicate something about you? And if so, what is that?
So this is one of the effects of like being that guy who runs away from everything. Is I'm easily now that I've changed myself, I easily become guilty when I say I will do something and don't keep my word, right? Because I've kind of changed my mindset where if I say something, I will do it. And so when someone like tells me you said this, I'm kind of bound to do it, And right now, when it comes to the university, again, like I only actually went there because, my life was planned out basically by my family. I followed I was nothing before the pandemic. Like I was just a shadow of all my family. I was a reflection of them, right? I just did anything and everything that they said they wanted me to do. I didn't have my decisions. If you asked me what I wanted for dinner, I would tell them anything that you have. Like I wouldn't even ask them, because I remember like if I asked them about something, they would say they can't afford it, and I would just be disappointed. And so I would just say anything that you can do. Just going back there. Now that I'm in the university, the only thing that would really like make me do it is really that guilt of not being able to finish what I said I would finish, right? Because I did say that I would finish college. But I've been learning recently, like, plans change, and things change. Like, the world is unpredictable. And again, there's a bigger promise for myself out there where I want to be proud of myself. And now, like, the question is, will the college degree make me proud of myself? And I'm going to be honest in this podcast, like, this is a revelation, but it won't. Like, honestly, the recognition, even in the top university of the Philippines, I still wouldn't think that I'd be happy with it, right? I'm even happier with what I'm doing right now, what I'm achieving, because really my mission is just to help young men. And I actually already have a community. Like, it's a free one. I invite people who I find interesting. I help them when they ask me about like tips on writing. I give them tips. I give them, like, I don't even charge anything. And you know, I feel it feels good to be connected to people far away, like people who don't even have the resources to like buy the courses that I can, and be able to give them that help, that boost that they need to like make them believe in themselves. Because sometimes like that's really what's missing, I think. And that's what I was missing too, is like someone who believed in you, right? Like someone who genuinely believes that, okay, this guy has potential and, you know, I'm going to help him out. So yeah, this is getting a little bit dramatic now, but yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I think ultimately we want to be seen and accepted. And if we miss that for some reason, it tastes all the more sweet once you receive it. And so it's almost worth not having it just for that, how good it feels when you get it. So yeah, if you can kind of find that connection, I think that's a beautiful thing. And there isn't a one size fits all, not at all. And I think each of us has to kind of ask that question of ourselves and make the best decision that we can. And I'm fairly confident that either decision is the right decision. It just depends on you ultimately. And you know, many of the people that we looked up to in terms of entrepreneurs and accomplished business people were at a similar fork in the road, and they chose to bet on themselves rather than take the opportunity cost of the institutional diploma. That's not for everyone, of course. So it just depends. I think maybe a middle ground might be go to Spain on like a sabbatical or something, or just take a break, a gap year or something, and see what happens. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think too, being a little insecure can be a good thing. For me, I went to a decent school, but I wasn't really thinking about like maximizing, like doing the best that I could do, like really applying myself, breaking my shins and going out into the Navy SEALs, for example. But like when I went to Asia, Japan in particular, it hit me how important rankings were and brand value and all this stuff. And I wasn't really, my mind wasn't in that space before. And then I was like, oh, like I'm inadequate. Like, I could have, I'm like this, like, I don't know how you talk about like a character, like with like a point scale or something. It's like, I'm here. I could have been higher if I'd applied myself more. And I wasn't thinking like that. So I'm grateful for that to some extent. I mean, again, I probably should say anything can get like out of balance. So I think it's important to think of balance as your North Star here. But generally speaking, I think that was good to be aware of. So when the pandemic happened and I decided to go back to business school, ranking was up there. But even in terms of the schools that I chose and stuff, but even before then, I was constantly reading. Didn't read Goggins' book, of course, but I was constantly reading. I always had a book in my hand on tour. And what was a cool thing about that too was I never allowed other people to waste my time. So like if you're waiting for someone and they're late, it can be kind of like frustrating because it's like on a principle level, it's like their time is more important than your time kind of thing. But I thought like a real, like a life hack was just have a book in your hand, because basically they're rewarding you by being late. It's like, great, like you're making me smarter. Thank you. Please be late more often. And I read through a bunch of books, not because like everyone was late, but I just always had a book in my hand, like everywhere on trains, buses, whatever. But I don't think I would have had that if I felt secure in my academic accomplishment, if that makes sense. So like, because I felt like I could do more, I always tried to. Whereas if I had like, this is the best, if you do this or whatever, then you are a complete human being forever and ever, then, you know, maybe I would, I don't know. I think there's like a balancing act and a trade-off. So
Yeah, I was just thinking, I thought, because there's this one guy, I don't know if it's Jim Quick or like some, like mind, yeah, I don't know if it's Jim Quick, but I think it's someone else. I think Jim Quick cited him, but someone said like, don't let school hinder your education. So basically he's saying that like school teaches you what to learn, but it doesn't teach you how to learn. Yeah. So like I like you, I always had a book in my hand. I was always looking for, like a book to read. And actually it's actually a book that led me to Twitter as well, The Art and Business of Online Writing, just simply because I was looking for self-improvement. So that, yeah, I think it's important for anyone, like even people who are working a 9 to 5, to like always just look for the unknown in a way, like always try to get out of your comfort zone and not think that just because you're successful is that you've made it,
right. It is a marathon, and it's like breathing or swimming in the open ocean. Like, you're never done. So just get comfortable with what, your path. Well, again, I'm kind of contradicting myself when I seek comfort. What I mean by that is just find your path, and try to find the right balance between comfort and discomfort. I think obviously we all want comfort and need rest and stuff like that, but it seems difficult for us to strike the right balance. It's like we tend to go too far either way, and then overcorrect for that pain. Whereas like we could optimize if we just got that right. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's all part of the process.
I was thinking like most people kind of whip themselves. Like there's this idea of like you are a bad employee, but you are a worse boss to yourself, because we have this idea of like discipline, whip yourself into submission and do what you want, like disciplining. But then like when you discipline yourself too much, you burn out and then you procrastinate, right? I think like that's a human tendency. And I think that's when you kind of really need to know yourself. And this is why I always tell people, like when they talk about how the ego is bad, it's like the problem is when you say the ego is bad, it will rebel. So really what you need to do is like befriend yourself rather than thinking that you are your boss and you are also your employee. Like try to integrate yourself into one person where you negotiate and not just whip yourself to do what you want and then like procrastinate because you got burned out.
That's a great point. I often forget about that. But yeah, that you reminded me. It's a matter of like accepting kind of all the parts of you, even the parts that you wish you didn't have or whatever, because it's part of what, like I mentioned, even the parts that like, oh, I wish I didn't make that mistake. It's like, that's what, like all the learning is there. Like you wouldn't have that otherwise. So I talked to a few people, obviously, with the podcast and stuff, but many people I talk to in the like entrepreneurship or business sense that are more accomplished than myself, I ask them like, and they'll share stories like, hardships or challenges, but they almost always say they wouldn't change anything because it brought them to where they are, and it made them who they are, and they have more like awareness and stuff. It's almost like saying like, oh, I wouldn't have read that book. It's like, no, you should read all the books in the library, library of life.
Yeah, it's beautiful. For me too, like, I used to think that, man, if I had like the perfect parents, I wouldn't be struggling like this. But now I'm realizing, looking back, it was a blessing for me to experience those things, because now I can, I have something to live for, right? Like I know what I want to do in life because there was sort of like a hell that I went through, and I can relate to people when they feel those lonely, desperate times. Like I can't say that I know how they feel, but it's like I can relate to them, I can understand their pain. So yeah.
And I think even in addition to that, you have almost like a limitless benefit. So it's either like you win. So like, what you share is more like the mega lotto. So most people, they want to win the lotto. It's like, oh, life would have been so much easier if I won the lotto at birth. But like, if you didn't, you kind of won the mega lotto. And what I mean by that is that like everything is sweeter. Like the energy you get from people, the friendships, the taste of food, like every little detail has that much more like impact, that you have a greater sensitivity, a greater awareness, a greater discovery potential, because you lacked comfort, you lacked stability, and in that absence, you were that much more appreciative of it when it came, rather than just having it, just seeing it as normal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I like that because I mean, I was thinking it is true. Like right now, it's like I'm just ranting right now because when I was a child, I was like kind of deprived, really. I've never been outside the country, and I also I was the I paid for my own my first plane ticket to go, well, still in the Philippines, but Davao. I'm from Luzon. Yeah. So I paid I was so proud of that because I was the one who paid for it, and it was like, oh, it's my first time going on a plane. And then everything, like buying food that I didn't get to buy before because it was too expensive. Like I enjoy gelato now. I even just what's this? It's just random pleasurable things. It's more enjoyable, and yeah, I'm just overfilled with bliss while you were saying that, because my memory is just it's a good feeling.
I think ultimately it comes down, I mean, maybe it's bias, but I think it comes down to value. The value that we provide, the value of our lives is reflected in the value we provide to others. And there's all sorts of contradictions. I'll try to keep it concise, but generally you're on your path. Like there's very little I can do for you. And there's very little you can do for me. I mean, of course, there's a lot we can do through conversation stuff, but it's not like I can tell you like, hey, do this tomorrow at this time, and because this is exactly what worked for me. Like it's going to be different for you. You have a different skill set, etc. And I mean, there's on like a quantum level, even there's like the observation effect where you basically are creating your own reality. And who knows how much of that is like destiny, or you make your own destiny. I mean, I don't know. That's above my pay grade. There's infinite, I think, discovery available there for us. But I think that when you find out who you are, and for some of us that takes a while. For me, it took about 40 years. But when you find out who you are, then it's like new skill unlocked. Like then it's like, I think you enter a new reality. I mean, in a very real sense, because you're finally like, it's like you mentioned basketball, right? Like imagine if you brought on the world's best golfer to play basketball. Like how well do you think he'd do? I mean, he might do kind of surprisingly well, because like some things translate to back to my earlier point of being like the outsider insights. Like maybe he has some unique strategies or something like that. But chances are he's not going to be like dunking on people or like, so I think once you start playing your game, it's like you're inimitable, you're supercharged. So yeah, I think, that's just kind of what I'd say based on what you said.
Yeah, I like that idea, because I think that's what that's what the internet has given us more access to. Because like before, this is just a random thought, but before, like you had to work in a way in a factory. That's their idea of purpose. Just like you have to like do a certain thing to become a man. But now you can be like, you're free to do whatever you want, but like that's the price that you pay, is that you need to like find yourself, take personal responsibility of your life, and define your purpose, define your like what you're here for.
Yeah, and I imagine each of us is going to be a little bit different. But let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now in your entrepreneurship journey, and the thing that is kind of making you question whether you should pursue it in place of a degree from a top university. You mentioned ghostwriting and like educational email courses. Could you talk a little bit about what that is and why you're doing it?
Right. So initially, when I went to Twitter, I didn't really think of monetizing. So really what I was doing was I just wanted to work on my writing. I've always loved writing. I've always been a writer. And I just wrote in Quora. So I read the book I mentioned earlier, The Art and Business of Online Writing. I wrote there that, he got better in writing and made money through it by just writing online. And so that's what I did. I didn't even think of monetizing. I just writing on constantly every day I would answer. And then I transferred to Twitter. And then in Twitter, I just saw these people posting, money stuff. They were making money off of Twitter. And so I got really I didn't pay attention to it, but there came a point where I went from 100 followers to 600 in a day or so. I just thought, man, there's so much potential in here. I transferred all my attention to Twitter, and I went from 600 to 1,000 in a month. And then that's when I left. I took a break from university and went all in and thought, okay, I need to figure out how to monetize. So again, this is not planned out. I just thought I would do I would just try to start a business. And I took all types of courses. First course I took was 2-Hour Writer by Dan Koh. That was quite good. But it just taught me how to write really, but it didn't teach me how to monetize, right? And then my first big investment was Jack Moses' cohort. So that's when I learned the path to the creator economy is first a high value skill and freelance work. That's what he said. And then eventually coaching, and then cohorts, and then courses, and then books, eventually becoming do for you, done with you, do it yourself, and then just after that, whatever you want. So that was a very attractive path for me. And because I already trusted Nicholas Cole because of the book, right, The Art and Business of Online Writing, I thought, okay, might as well take the Premium Ghostwriting Academy because that's his business. And I went there. I didn't expect it, but it was really pricey. It was even beyond what I had in the bank, but they promised that you would get results in 2 months. So I just did a little bit of math, and I tried, I justified my wanting of freedom, things like that. And yeah, that's when I learned educational email courses, because that's what they teach you in the Premium Ghostwriting Academy. And the reason why educational email courses are the ones that they teach is because it's a more unique way of getting traffic and marketing, because there are already a lot of ghostwriters who do content, Twitter content and LinkedIn content. There's also a lot of email marketing ghostwriters, but there isn't a lot of people who specialize in educational email courses. So what is a educational email course anyways? So it's basically a nurturing sequence where when they sign up to your email course or to that, so there's a landing page, and then you put your email there, and then you nurture them through 5 emails that talk about specific topic. So for example, my most recent educational email course is about how I landed a 12.5K deal. So there I have 5 topics, which is first, market research. That's one day. I'll go in depth. And then day 2 is positioning, positioning yourself in the market in Twitter. And then how to, what post should you make? So what's this? Traffic, basically, how to generate traffic in your account, and then newsletters, and then over delivering for the client. So those are the 5 days. So I do that for my clients too. Unfortunately, I can't share because it's quite confidential, so yeah, that's basically what educational email course is. And it's useful because, again, it's more unique way of nurturing leads.
And then, so you mentioned though that this is not the final destination. This is something you're planning to do this for a time, and then perhaps pivot into something else. Could you talk a little bit about what you're thinking?
Right. So again, what I want to do is to do ghostwriting for now, because this is the business model that will, like, it's working for me, right? This is the business model. And I don't want to coach people without having success, because it's like a broke person teaching someone to get rich, right? I want to be able to say that, hey, I'm actually successful. I'm an entrepreneur.
Well, I mean, I'm not being like, seriously, because like a lot of us are kind of, we see the shiny object, like I want to be there, but we don't realize the path that it takes to, because a lot of that imposter syndrome is stuff you can work on, but some of it might be kind of healthy signals that you need to grind a little bit more. You need to accomplish a little bit more, so that you mentioned the cookie jar thing, like maybe something similar. You can remember, oh, I did this. I have confidence. I got this kind of thing. So sorry, please continue, but that's what I meant.
Yeah. I like it. That's definitely what I was going for as well. And I mean, again, I don't want to teach someone if I don't have the experience. So I'm planning to stay with ghostwriting for the ghostwriting business and grow it for a year or so, until not fixed a year, but I want to go to a point where I can confidently sign clients. Like, I know that if I need a client, I can sign it, because, you know, when I teach people, because that's eventually what I'm going to do, a writing course where I also teach people how to start businesses through writing in Twitter. I want to be able to be confident, so that when a student, like a student of mine goes to me, I don't know what to do, I can confidently tell him, this is what I did, you can try it, right? Because if I tell them something that just worked for me one time but didn't work for me again, then it I don't have proof that it actually works. So I want to stay there until I can confidently say first, I can close clients easily. Second, I can over deliver. I can like make my clients happy. And third, like I can do that over and over again. So if once I've hit that point where I'm just really like, I feel like this business is good, I'll start opening up some coaching slots and teaching people how to do the same. And then eventually I'll do it like cohorts, so that it can be one to many. So it's not time consuming, because like coaching is, one-on-one. One to many is like easier, more, it's more spread out. I don't have to like spend too much time. And then use the cohort as a basis for a course. And then the course will be do it yourself. It's like, I just put the course out there. You can buy it if you want to learn. And then I want to do a book in the future, autobiography, because I feel like that's always been a plan. I've always wanted to do an autobiography. I feel like I have a story to say out there, and I want to inspire people, young people especially, who feel lost and feel like they're not worth anything, to find their purpose and like know that they have something to offer to this world. So yeah, that's a plan.
It's a beautiful plan. I believe you'll do it, and then some. I think there's going to be a lot of surprises along the way, and that's the beauty of it. Just get in the ring and learn. You're going to learn a lot as you go. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story. You're an impressive young man. You've got the world is your oyster, and I think you're on quite a journey. And I appreciate you kind of giving back on like a human level, a professional level. I think that's what life's all about. Is there anything that we left unsaid that you'd like to close with?
We will have another podcast in mind now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be exciting.
Where can people, you mentioned Twitter, is there, or X, is like, where should people follow you? Right.
So in all platforms, my username is Nathaneal. That's Nathan and EAL. It's a weird spelling. Nathaneal GLGZ. So yeah, that's
great. We'll put it in the show notes. Well, thanks once again, Nathaneal, and have a good, let's see, for you, it's evening. So have a good evening.
Yeah, you too, David.